Satire can be a great starting point into understanding the core principles of screenwriting, namely because a key element of satire is exaggeration. It's unmistakable that Dr. Strangelove is about the insanity of nuclear warfare. It's clear that Birdman is mocking the stupidity over obsessions around the superhero genre. Early on in your writing pilgrimage, you'll hear a lot of people express the importance of working subtlety, nuance, and subtext into your screenplays. But as a starter, that will often be more misleading than helpful. There's a clear distinction between being vague by beating around the bush and building organic storytelling through seemingly mundane situations or metaphors. How to understand this concept and execute it properly is a video for the future, but in this lesson, I want to tell you this. When you are starting out, make everything as clear as humanly possible. If you're unsure about the purpose and meaning of an element in your story, the audience will be too. Studying a satire like The Triangle of Sadness is a good starting point into screenwriting because it's so on the nose that you couldn't misunderstand the story beats and intentions of this movie if you tried. We're about to use Dan Harmon's story circle to break down this film, so if you want to know the reasons behind why this is my structuring tool of choice, check out my video on which structure tools you should use. Let's look now at how clearly the Triangle of Sadness adheres to a single rotation of the story circle, which results in a compelling, meaningful narrative. Spoilers for Triangle of Sadness. Hopping right in, let's unveil point 1. A character is in a zone of comfort or familiarity. Yaya and Carl are our main characters. They are both models. They've been accepted into prestigious programs and live a life of aristocracy that most can only dream of. In these programs, they are conditioned to act in certain ways and to look down on the consumers of their products who can't rise to their level. As simple as that, we've established our characters. Move on to part 2. They desire something. The establishment of their relationship comes through a date where they argue over who should pay the check at the restaurant. There's an apparent level of complete incompetence and stupidity that derives from the superficiality of their lifestyle. After their fight, they discuss that they want to be okay. They want to love each other. So what do Yaya and Carl desire? They desire a good relationship. Step 3. They enter an unfamiliar situation. They go on a cruise for personal time together. When there, members of the staff on the yacht threaten the dominance that Carl tries to present. This hairy, ungroomed man takes off his shirt in front of Yaya and she jokingly exclaims how attractive he is. This insults Carl and his superiority complex. Step 4. They adapt to the situation. To make sure Carl stays on top of the food chain, he goes to one of the leaders on the ship and reports this worker for being inappropriate. Consequently, this gets that worker fired and he comically speeds away on a motorboat. Step 5. They get what they wanted. Life on the yacht is now bliss. They share an uninterrupted romance. The captain's dinner, the finest meal aboard the vessel, takes place. Step 6. They pay a heavy price for it. Their untrained stomachs were not prepared to eat that much food while in unsettled seas. Everyone starts vomiting violently. On top of that, some of their finest workers were expelled from the ship, so no one realizes pirates are advancing in on them. Their ship is blown to smithereens. Step 7. They return to their familiar situation. The survivors of the incident, including Carl and Yaya, crawl onto the shore of a desolate island. They are no longer on the seas. They make it back to land and they are together. Step 8. They have changed as a result of their journey. The incompetence their privileged lives served them puts them at the bottom of the food chain in this new lifestyle, because they have no idea how to do anything for themselves. Those who were at the bottom are now at the top. The Triangle of Sadness is a satire on the broken hierarchical systems of the West especially. In the second act on the yacht, through moments of characterization, we see that these individuals of lower status are not, in fact, better people just because they have lived outside the bounds of such privilege as Yaya and Carl. We find that they yearn for that superficiality and privilege. As their aristocrats come aboard the yacht, the crew starts chanting money, 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 money. The film points out that this is a never-ending cycle because each side of the hierarchy is encouraging the problems of the other. So even when the roles are reversed in the third act, nothing truly changes for the better. This is all communicated through a very simple process of following the beats of the story circle. Just as I always teach, the guide for life in this film is offered through the 3 veins of conflict. The internal conflict of the film is the tension between Yaya and Carl. They are trying to have a good relationship, but they are both incredibly petty. The external conflict is introduced when the yacht goes up in flames and they are cast upon a deserted island. They are forced to the bottom of the hierarchy. Through the marrying of the internal and external conflicts, we're able to bring out the philosophical conflict, which shows the inescapable lust for power and superficiality and points out this destructive cycle. Any character who even momentarily feels compelled to better themselves is beaten down by this cycle because it's a relentless satire. That's the resolution of the film, but it paints it in a horrific manner. This is the process of making a well-written and meaningful film. Now, this story circle is a tool which encourages constant change and progression. In well-written films, you should be able to recognize this type of cycle around the circle on a large scale, but also within each act of the film individually, and maybe even within each scene. That can be hard to wrap your head around at first, but let me give you an example. This film is such a great example for simplicity in writing to the degree that it literally divides itself into 3 distinct chapters, signaled by the title cards in the film. Chapter 1, Yaya and Carl, is about establishing their relationship. Chapter 2, The Yacht, sets up the conflicts between the classes and then lets everything erupt into madness. Chapter 3, The Island, allows the characters to rebuild their society and gives us an intimate view on the governmental disaster that will come from such individuals. Let's take Chapter 1 and break it down with the story circle. 1. A character is in a zone of comfort. We start by seeing Carl and Yaya in a modeling show to establish what they're all about. They go to dinner afterwards. 2. They desire something. Carl wants Yaya to pay for the meal because she had said she would pay the other day, and she makes more money than him anyways. 3. They enter an unfamiliar situation. Yaya is kind of insulted that she has to pay, but she does so anyways, until her card is declined. 4. They adapt to it. Carl mans up and pays, but he holds a grudge about it. Yaya starts making it a public problem, humiliating him in front of the other guests. Carl takes her home, pretending to have let it go, but then he catches her at the elevator leading up to her room and confronts the problem again, forcing her to admit what is in his mind her faults. The elevator door keeps comically trying to shut on him here just to show how much effort he has to put in to adapt to this situation. 5. They get what they wanted. Yaya gives in and says it was all her fault and pays him back for the meal. 6. They pay a heavy price for it. This creates a divide between the 2 characters. They both wish it had never happened because they miss one another and can't sleep at night. 7. They return to their familiar situation. They come back to each other because they can't take it any longer. 8. They have changed as a result of their journey. They apologize and agree to be better for each other and make it up. So as you can see, the story circle works for this act alone, as well as the story as a whole. It's a simple process, but one that constantly keeps change and progression at the forefront of its mind that properly funnels the story through the various lanes of conflict. The story circle can be applied to acts 2 and 3 as well, but try to pinpoint each step for yourself as some homework. Go and watch this movie in theaters right now and be conscious of the story circle as you watch it. It's a really fun movie to watch with a group of friends. It was the first time I've cried while laughing during a movie in quite some time. I highly recommend it. It's currently my 3rd favorite film of the year so far. This was a bonus episode, so I have another video right around the corner. Stay tuned for a video on Decision to Leave that drops Tuesday at 2 p.m. If you enjoyed the video or found it informative, leave it a like and subscribe for more screenwriting content. If you thought it could have been better though, give it a thumbs down and leave me some constructive criticisms in the comments below. Thanks guys, I'll see you later.